Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode, I suppose, of my little Buildcraft videos. I'm not claiming that I'm the best Warframe builder or anything, but I do have plenty of frames that I love playing, with a few slots still open. So, while I decide on these final frames, I figured I'd share my current favourites with you all, along with a few tips I've picked up along the way. So, today's video, we'll be talking about Kullervo, because he's honestly one of the more simple frames that I enjoy playing. I can highly recommend him to any new players. He is a little bit late game, is a little bit hard to farm, so I would recommend just buying his prime. I lie, he doesn't have a prime yet. I think all frames have primes, but soon. I forget that this new skin isn't a prime, but I recommend less buying him from DE, but they do deserve the support. So, if you are inclined to pay for the game, Kullervo would be a fantastic choice for your sort of $10 investment into Warframe. But to get into why, his passive makes him an excellent melee combatant, giving him faster heavy attacks and capped heavy attack efficiency. You might be able to get to 90%, but honestly, that only 75 and 90 is negligible enough to not build it on him. You may still use Galvanized Reflex, but we'll get into that in the melee weapon section. His one is an extremely potent weapon platforming ability for melee weapons, giving them a flat 200% crit hit chance, scaling with strength. Because of this, you can get to insane multipliers. You really can have 1,000 times crit and just 10x your crit multiplier. It's pretty wild. Recompense with his new augment does sort of fly around you and apply blast to people, but most importantly, it is now an extremely reliable source of overguard, offering you CC immunity and honestly status immunity in general, along with a secondary health bar to help make up for the fact that you don't actually have shields, which is a little bit awkward, but it's honestly not too big of a concern. Collective Curse is an ability that, within a 65-degree angle, will affect people with a damage replication effect. So if you hit a cursed person, that damage will be replicated to all cursed people. It's quite effective and useful because, as a melee frame, he often is hitting one person extremely hard. This is a way to spread that without influence, and I'm not sure if the cloned attacks will count as melee hits. That depends frame to frame, and I can't say I know for sure with Kullervo. And Thorough Strike is not actually his 4, but I will honestly defend it kicks the shit out of his actual 4, especially with its augment, Tharos Lethality, giving people a crit damage vulnerability. And like I discussed with Wrathful Advance, this will ostensibly be multiplied by the crit multiplier of Wrathful Advance. So if you have a 3 times multiplier with my 250%, that would get you to, what, a 9.5? No, to get you to 10.5, it'd get you 7.5. So that would get you to your 10 times multiplier, which then with the 500% crit hit chance, you would actually deal 50 times crit damage, plus whatever your weapon's actual crit is if you use Blood Rush. We'll get into that in the melee section. But normally his 4 does just rain down knives. It's called Storm of Ukko. It's a decent slash proc, but as I'm sure you're realizing, we have better things to do than just apply slash procs. And we didn't actually have a way to strip armor, so it does also do that, which is nice. Also heals us, which isn't too relevant. We are an overguard frame. Recompense does also heal us, to be honest. But they're both rather small heals. But then, as you can see here, as you've probably already noticed in the mods, I am in full umbrals, 2 augments in Thoros Lethality and Volatile Recompense, Stretch just to get a little bit of extra range on my teleport, and Thoros Strike, which does have a pretty short range, so I feel Stretch is helpful to wear. Equilibrium because, honestly, you might just wear it on everything. Prime Continuity to keep these buffs going a little bit longer, slash the debuffs obviously. Growing Power for a little more ability strength mid-combat, and Arrow Advantage for a weird tip. While normally Arrow Advantage is only really useful with aerodynamic, to get the extra aim glide duration, Kullervo can actually, or really anybody, it is his helmet, can use Wrathful Advance to reset their aerial momentum. It'll let you dodge or bullet jump again mid-air. It'll also reset your aim glide duration, meaning you can just teleport around the skies and sort of fly around. If, for whatever reason, you either don't want to engage with enemies, you are just trying to get to extraction, or you've decided to shoot people. Because, obviously, you are still more than welcome to. It's not like Kullervo bars you from using a gun or anything. And then for arcanes, we have Arcane Battery. Thanks to our enormous armor, we do get a pretty substantial energy pool just to help keep all this shenaniganry going. And then Bellicose, because we do actually get the full 72% of it at 3200, thanks to Umbral Vitality. So that is definitely a flex slot. There's plenty of things you could use in here. You could definitely put on Energize and then put on an actual Strength mod instead of Equilibrium. But this is how I choose to play them. I personally really like Bellicose, but have few chances to use it to its full effect. But to get into the weapons, I will start with the melee weapon here, because it is probably the most important part. I'm using the Psyarm to get the shockwaves on heavy attack, basically being Excalibur's Exalted Blade. Sadly, no augment, but, you know, you can't have the world. It's not literally an ability. But as you can see here, I do have a 7 times 2 multiplier on my own, making Thoros Lethality get me closer to like a 20 times multiplier. So, feel free to think about what that would do to the math. But the moral of the story is, I don't really need to build too much damage, because really it's being 100x or some garbage. But I am using Truth Flame to enable Tennokai. Also, as long as one of the shockwaves kills, it will just re-enable the Tennokai to basically let me dimension slice like Virgil. And assisted with Melee Vortex, it's honestly been proving pretty effective at just magnetic priming people, pulling them into the center and just cha 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 cha. I think it's pretty hard. At the end of this, I may show the build off in a mission, just to sort of, oh, why should we care about what you think or do? Because, honestly, there's no real reason. I simply wish to share the tricks I have learned with people. But to continue on with the mods, we are using galvanized steel for the extra crit chance, extra crit damage, magnetic rush for the magnetic damage, because we do need to magnetic prime people, and it gets me a bit of attack speed. Blood rush and weeping wounds to skyrocket my status and crit chance, as long as I can keep my combo high. Kullervo's 2 does help build your combo, but honestly, with the amount you'll be melee attacking, you'll probably build it yourself. Quickening for a little bit more attack speed and an additional combo count chance. You could pretty happily replace this with a Riven. I just don't have one for the Sidearm, I'll be honest. I haven't bothered picking one up, and there's a Riven disposition of 2, so it wouldn't be that good, but it would probably be better than this. Likely better than this. If you did want to replace one of them with an Arcane, then I would not recommend it. And then melee pressure point and galvanized elementalist, because we do still get slum slash procs. I believe this does do heat damage, yeah, so I should get heat procs off the shock waves. So it's also honestly pretty replaceable. You just tend to use it on builds. But feel free to take that as a sort of statement against, oh, you shouldn't just do the same thing on every weapon. You really shouldn't, because the status chance nor damage actually really does very much for this weapon, beyond I do want to on-hit magnetize people. But obviously I could just use any other status chance mod to continue trying to get that. And then, lastly, this is something I actually just found out. My combo duration is at 35 seconds, and before I started testing, I would have told you that you can simply equip primary dexterity and second dexterity into your arc gun, and they will still give you the 15-second combo duration. I have since found out that you can also equip them in your actual primary and secondary, and they will continue to up your combo duration. So I'm going to equip Fractalized Reset here, which I don't know why this gun can use Fractalized. Oh, it is a primary. I thought it was a shotgun arcane, which suddenly dawned on me I don't know if those actually exist. But now having taken that off, I should have a 28-second combo duration, 27.5. And then similar here on the Skyatid, if I go ahead and put on Cascadia Empowered, now I should be at a 20-second combo duration. So depending on how hard you want to go into this, and how sort of, I'm be honest, I don't really like shooting much either. Hence the reason I ended up finding this out, I suppose. Because you really can just give up all 4 of your gun arcane slots to get some extra damage and get some combo duration. Now do keep in mind, dexterity does actually up your gun damage for melee kills, but it means if you do ever fire any of your guns, they should hit like trucks. So that's not nothing. But neither is a 35-second combo duration. Like, neither is a 20, honestly. Even if you do actually want to use your guns, then you can obviously still do the arc gun thing and use whatever you want. I do have guns on the build, because Biotic Rounds is extremely good. The AX-52 is an extremely effective weapon. Because of its unique trait, you have a insane crit chance if you hit aim and get them in the head. With Thoros lethality, you can skyrocket your crit damage, and it ends up just murdering the heck out of people. Or obviously, while hip firing, you do get the 60% ammo efficiency. If you did want to actually use the gun, I'd recommend Primary Crux, because that is on weak point hit. This wants you to get weak point... Oh, I thought it wanted you to get weak point kills. Alright, this does. So they line up quite well just to get the extra status chance on the viral magnetic. For the magnetic priming, it gets you to 90% ammo efficiency, so once you do get Crux online, you really can just hip fire and you know, H52 go brr. But to aid in that, I do have Galvanized Amplitude, Hammer Shot, Thermite Rounds, Critical Delay, Galvanized Chamber, Serration, and Rhyme Rounds. You could bother to put on an Exilus. I don't honestly think there's any gun Exilus worth using, but if you think I'm wrong, feel free to hit me up in the comments, because that isn't quite true. Ammo mutations are useful if you personally have ammo troubles. I think Aerial Ace is hilarious, but isn't actually particularly useful. And Silence is also, depending on your playstyle, useful. But this is Warframe. We do genocide here, not sneak around and hide. Apologies, YouTube. I don't know if I'm not supposed to say that word. But lastly, for our guns, I am using the Skyatid because its alt fire is a quite effective grouping tool, which, as you may guess, is quite useful for the sidearm, is very good for collective curse. I can just sort of web shooter people together, collective curse them, heavy slam into the group, wrathful advance into the group, and just pop them, probably trigger the suck, find more guys to pop. And generally, that's how the build works. On this I am using Primary Heated Charge, Galvanized Diffusion, Heated Strike, Galvanized Shot, Auger Pact, Jolt, Primed Convulsion, and Pistol Pestilence to make gas and electricity. I will also take a moment to talk up that the Skyatid is also a very surprisingly functional gun. Like, this came out with Araxia, and I wasn't expecting much from it. But no, aside from the grouping tool being like invaluable, like you can get it from a couple of places now, but for the small price of your secondary, I think it's a very interesting place to be able to get it. Same as the Proboscis Ceranos, honestly, if you'd rather trade off your primary. But the last thing I will quickly mention is, if you are going to play Kullervo, or most crit-focused frames, honestly, then you will quite likely... where is it? There it is. You will more likely want to use Tenacious Bond, aside from potentially reviving your companions by simply shooting people in the head. It does also give you a final 1.2 crit damage multiplier. It's why I'm at 7.2, not a rounder number. But you do have to get your companion's weapon damage above 50%. But that isn't that hard. Like, there's a number of companion weapons that can suit this purpose. I'm using a Chelsea Cobra, and their claws get more than high enough to meet that crit threshold. And I'm not going to defend that the dog's going to do like crazy work or anything, but they do offer an array of interesting buffs in the form of Seismic Bond, offering me a bit of efficiency, Prosperous Retriever, or Resourceful Retriever is the version that does drops, same chance. obviously Tenacious Bond, and then Vicious Bond being another decent way to sort of get some strip going along with the heat. They're not bad, as well as obviously giving me fetch and retrieve for a little bit of extra loot. But anyway, as I alluded to, I will jump into a Void Relic. Hopefully there is a decent survival going, and show you guys what the build can do. Excellent, we do have a Conjunction Survival, and I am going to jump into Friends Only, just so I don't get random people in my party. Doesn't really matter what we run here, and I probably won't show you this entire run, because obviously, who got time for that? But I'll show you what the build is capable of. Takes a little while to build up combo. But once we get some enemies spawning here, this should start going much smoother. Apologies for the no in-game audio either. This is a frequent bug that happens to me when I record, that I just don't have audio. I don't know what the deal is, but it is in fact quite annoying. Oh yeah, I did catch somebody apparently. But alright, let's actually try and build up our combo. I don't know how I feel about Truth Flame, the new Tennokai thing, that as long as you get a kill, it's free. Otherwise it drops your combo to 0. Because obviously that's not asking very much. But it's not asking nothing, which most Tennokai do. But as you can see here, like I described previously, now I do just sort of get to slash around, and that is pretty effective at just sort of grabbing people, and honestly, I think it's pretty cool. Also, do keep in mind for the Truth Tennokai mod, if you don't actually heavy attack with Tennokai, then you can still do it without fear of the curse. But otherwise it will drop your combo, even if you have heavy attack efficiency. It's pretty annoying, honestly. But otherwise you can just use Opportunity's Reach and get a bigger heavy attack. Like, it adds 3 meters to your heavy attack, which, especially depending on the weapon, or if you're playing some sort of slam build, can be extremely valuable. But as you can see here, we're just going to be slashing up and down this corridor, clearing it out. Which, you could also be doing this with Influence, and use electric instead of magnetic, and I'm not here to tell you that that would be less effective. I personally love magnetic status. I think Magneto's really cool. So, I like using Vortex. But it probably would be more impactful with Influence. It would also make the galvanized elementalist significantly better. You'd be building heat slash and electric rather than heat slash and magnetic. For what that is worth. Which certainly isn't nothing, I'll be honest. But yes, that didn't hit any of them. But anyway, guys, I hope you all have found this enjoyable. I won't take up any more of your time. But if you did, feel free to drop me a comment or leave a like. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all in the next video. Stay safe, y'all. Bye.